We are so honored to have with us today labor's greatest fighter. I spent several days with him a couple of weeks ago as he led the national labor movement to a new horizon. At the AFL-CIO Convention, we discussed, debated, and ultimately envisioned a new, more diverse, and more inclusive, as much as empowered, labor movement that brings together union workers and allied organizations and communities fighting for economic justice, whether in a union, now, or pre-union. Born in a blue-collar Pennsylvania town, he began his career working in the local coal mines before eventually earning a law degree. The ever-present danger of the mines builds camaraderie among workers who look out for each other's safety, make sure they have each other's backs. And that taught him the importance of solidarity, a lesson that would serve him well throughout his career championing unions. The vulnerability one feels working underground also taught him what was at stake. He has devoted his life to protecting workers, first as legal counsel for the United Mine Workers, then as the youngest secretary-treasurer in AFL-CIO history, and since 2009 as the president of the AFL-CIO, the nation's largest labor federation. With unions under assault nationwide, it is a blessing to have leaders with his vision and passion and his undaunted commitment to working families. Please welcome the pride of Nemacolin, PA, and of millions of working people across the country, AFL-CIO President, a man I'm proud to call my good friend, Rich Trumka.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. It's embarrassing. Ken, I want to thank you for that very, very generous introduction, and more importantly, I want to thank you for that welcome. You really should be able to see what I'm looking at right now. This is really a beautiful sight and a very historic moment, and I'm very, very honored that you asked me to be part of it. And as I was sitting here listening to Ken start the convention, I drifted on back to 1890 when my union first came into being, and in Columbus, Ohio. And miners from all parts of the country came together because they knew that individually and as small groups they were very, very weak. They couldn't go after or couldn't compete with strong coal companies that were bent on exploiting them. And they came to Columbus as victims, and they formed a union. And when they left, they were no longer victims. They had the strength and the power and the solidarity to be able to stand up and make very, very bad, unsafe jobs into decent, middle-class paying jobs. And that's the same sense that I feel right now. God bless you for what you've done in bringing these unions together. I want to start by recognizing the strategic insight and the activism of your leadership, both Ken and Amy. Brothers and sisters, we're stronger when we're together. It's that simple. And one of the major goals across our labor movement is strengthening the power of unions. And I tell you, I have no doubt that the merger of SAG and AFTRA has built a much, much stronger union. It's a victory for your combined membership. And I got to tell you, the early results are pretty exciting when you look at it from my point of view. One example of your growing strength is the new contract for dancers. I hope some of them are in here right now. organizing in the music video industry. It's new, it's creative, and all I can say is, God, it's about time it happened, right? And there are a whole bunch of other examples as well. Your work at the American Public Media and the depth of your penetration in the world of audio books. All very, very exciting from our point of view. But don't get me wrong. See, the job of strengthening our unions and America's working people still has a long, long way to go. So we can't afford to sit back and take a deep breath and pat ourselves on the back and say, ain't we great? We did it all now. We got a long way to go. See, our goal is and must always be to make sure that our members and all people who work for a living, even if they don't get the big break, can still live and work and have a retire with a good life, a middle-class life with some real dignity. Now, let me make one more observation about the broad media industry where your members find employment. Over the past decade, more and more, the cost of doing business has been increasingly shifted onto performers. And I'll give you one example. Today, it's hard to be an audio performer without a high-end home studio. Listen, I understand that changing technology has created new openings, and it made it possible for your members to outfit a quality home recording studio and with first-rate sound and editing equipment. And I know that a home studio can give a performer a lot of flexibility. But our challenge is to make sure that workers who create value don't also have to pay the entire cost of producing that value without reaping additional benefit. See, and let me take you back to the 1930s before the UMWA. My union came into the mine that I worked in, and my grandfathers and my dad worked in. They used to make us pay for our picks and our shovels, all the powder that we did. If a place fell in, you cleaned it up free. We created a lot of value for them. But we sure weren't reaping it until the union came in and gave us the ability to do that. And that's what we have to do now. You see, brothers and sisters, your members create tremendous value. And I'm not talking about the stars, yes, but I'm also talking about everybody else who makes it possible for the stars to shine. We wouldn't have the names on the marquee without the artists, the background actors, and all the people who absolutely love this business and whose labor makes possible the joy and the wonder that I feel and that all the rest of us in the viewing and listening public feel when we're transported to another place or to another time by the magic, and I mean the magic, of the work that you do. See, a few weeks ago at the AFL-CIO Convention here in Los Angeles, right down the road, it seemed like everyone I talked to told me of meeting one of your members while they were hard at work at their day jobs, as well, as wait staff at restaurants, at retail shops, and including one, and I don't know if he's here or not, but one of your members who occasionally works at a cigar shop downtown. Now, sisters and brothers, I got to tell you, I was proud to learn that the guy from the cigar shop downtown had the opportunity to come to our convention and listen to my keynote speech. And I got to tell you, that meant a lot to me. You see, not just because I like a bigger audience, although I do like a bigger audience. The truth is, I spend a lot of time talking to people and about bringing people together so that we can build strength for all working people. And I mean it. I absolutely do mean that. See, we're all connected. And that person's presence in that hall really gave me that sense of connection. See, we're stronger when we stand together. Together we live better lives, all of us, and we can have a better country with better jobs and with middle-class living standards. And that's what we want. That's who we are. We want to live with dignity and have our voices respected and to provide well for our families and for our children. We all have dreams. Of course we do, and maybe none have bigger dreams than the dreams of your members. But at the end of the day, your members are like everyone else who works for a living. They're workers, hard workers, activists, questioners. And no matter what happens, each member, every single one, deserves to be fairly rewarded for the work that he or she does. And that's what a union does. That's why we strengthen our foundations and prepare for negotiations. That's why we struggle for our rights on the job, and that includes fighting against right to work for less laws in every state, right? Right to work less laws that encourage workers to freeload off the hard work and off the organizations of others. And I'd say it's about time for that to come to an end in this great country of ours. You see, we take on that right-wing assault so we can improve work for all workers, because we know that unless we make real everyone's rights, none of our rights will be secure. And I'm going to say that one more time. A union stands for all, and that's what makes us strong. And as a movement, we will not allow the right wing to pass more laws to let freeloaders weaken the ability of all workers to bargain for safety on the job or health care or retirement or fair wages and fair pay. If they try, we will defend our rights, and this fight and other fights like it will make us stronger each and every time we engage and come out with victory. You see, at the AFL-CIO Convention, we talked a lot about building community, about strengthening the labor movement at the local level, and reaching out beyond our own members in our communities. And nothing is more important than our ability to win good contracts and to gain genuine American living standards and to engage in electoral politics when it matters, or to build real strength in our unions and in our communities. See, we're all tied together, and they all come back to one idea. We're stronger together. There's no question about it. And by the time we wrapped up the AFL-CIO Convention, we had agreed on a full agenda of change for our movement. And we focused on three broad areas. The first, growth, innovation, and political action. The second is building shared prosperity in the global economy. And third, the last, is about building community partnerships and grassroots power. Now, we discussed major plans to translate that agenda into action. And so today, we're looking at how that action can actually play out. You know, as a movement, we endorsed a whole bunch of resolutions. But that's just the start of the work. Because passing resolutions is one thing. Making them reality is a whole nother thing. You see? And that's where I need your help. And that's where I need your commitment. Because you're going to do a lot of good work here at this convention. Don't leave this convention thinking that the work is done. Because the work then starts. And I need your help. You see, brothers and sisters, I'm not satisfied with having a lot of nice phrases on fancy paper. I want to use the power that we have and the power that we'll build to improve the lives of working people. And I'm dead serious about that. And to tell you the truth, one of the greatest hurdles between where the labor movement is today and where we need to be is isolation. And it's not just us. See, working people all over America are isolated from each other. When you're doing your day job and you're trying to get through and wondering how you're going to make everything happen, how many times you stop and think, Jesus, I'm in this alone. I'm isolated. I'm the only one here. Like it's only me. But there are others. Millions and millions of others that feel that same exact way. And it's not by accident. You see, the people that we fight against, they want you to believe that you're isolated. They want you to believe that you're all alone and there's nothing that you can do to change this system that seems to be putting this incredible heavy weight on you and being unfair to you and your neighbors and all the people that we identify with. They want you to believe that it is impossible to change. You see, the right wing understands isolation and alienation. And they've taken advantage of the divisions and the insecurity of working people. They've learned to exploit just about every institution in America to enrich themselves at the expense of the 99%. Everything from the speed and frequency of online stock trades to gaming the Federal Reserve monetary policy to using tax loopholes to the bankruptcy laws. And too often, way too often, those institutions have been used for one purpose, and that's to skim profit for the few at the expense of the rest of us, the many. See, and that's why I'm not surprised, but I got to tell you, it should make every one of us angry. No, it should make every one of us damn angry that when people say that American working class is no longer the middle class. You see, brothers and sisters, this is our shared experience in America today. It's not just your members, it's all of us. Everyone who works for a living. You work harder. You create more value. You work over longer hours, and yet you earn less. Think back over the last 15 years. Think about all the work that you did. Think about all the work your coworkers did. All the work that your friends did and your neighbors did and your family did. And all the wage increases over the last 15 years. Not some, not most, not the majority, not the vast majority, but all all those wage increases have gone to the top 10% in this country. And I want you to remember that statistic because it's the source of a lot of pain. In the most rich nation on the face of the earth, we're told that 2 out of 5 of our children have to go to bed hungry. That millions of Americans should be incarcerated. We're told that immigrants shouldn't have rights. That you shouldn't be able to send your kid to school where their brains will take them rather than where their mommy or daddy's pocketbook can send them. All the wage increases over the last 15 years went to the top 10%. And incomes for the rest of us, 90% of America, well, they went down. And those whose incomes went up the most were those at the very top of the heap who needed it the least, the top 1%. Since 2009, the pay of America's corporate CEOs have gone up 40%. Now, imagine for a second how strong our families could be, our communities could be, our economy would be if the incomes of ordinary Americans had gone up 40% since 2009, right? There wouldn't be unemployment. There wouldn't be rampant poverty around. Think about it, 40% since 2009. But our salaries didn't. We do the work, but our pay is down. The 1%'s bent the rules. They've corrupted our democracy. They've polluted it with billions of dollars. And they took all the money in the process. And I got to tell you, that's wrong. That's un-American. It's completely backwards. It's completely upside down. And brothers and sisters, we are going to turn America right side up one more time with a real working class movement of American workers who stand and fight and win together. And everything that we do should be part of our overreaching strategy for winning shared prosperity. And I'm talking about everything we do, from the local to the national level of the labor movement. What you do, what I do, every day. If we're not moving the dial, then we'd better stop and think about it and then do something different. See, I'm not talking about a silver bullet or some magic bean that we can plant somewhere. I'm just talking about old-fashioned unionism. It's about talking to each other and with each other and for each other and supporting each other and talking within our movement with our friends and our allies outside the walls of our union halls to find out what we need from each other, to find out what will make all of us, and I mean all of us, grow a little stronger. And then we'll take action and we'll move forward. You know, it doesn't take but once or twice standing together before the strings of our common experience strengthen into the tight bonds of real solidarity. And I'm not talking about lip service solidarity. I'm talking about real solidarity where your fight is my fight. And I don't ask what the fight's about. If my brothers and sisters are in a fight, I'm going to come to their aid whether they're right or wrong, or the sun is shining or it's raining outside. That's the kind of solidarity I'm talking about. And that's how we'll build community. And that's how we'll rebuild the America where you don't surrender your humanity and your dignity and your rights when you go to work. You see, brothers and sisters, we're going to tear down the barriers and remove all the boundaries between us. Union, non-union, never heard of unions yet. We're going to reach out to everybody who works for a living, and we're going to build a new working class movement. And we won't let employers or politicians tell us who's in our movement and who's not. Working people will decide who's in our movement. We will. That's our job. That's our responsibility. And we will stand, and we will fight, and we will march, and we will struggle, and we will win with every single worker who needs us, because we're the American labor movement. We know solidarity, and we won't be denied. You see, what we need is the willingness to see and use our solidarity, to stand together, to let every worker know that whoever stands with us will have a friend for life, a powerful friend, thousands of friends, millions of friends, who will, not just when it's easy, but when it's hard, especially when it's hard. And the harder it is, the longer we'll stand. And more than 50 years ago, Martin Luther King spoke to the 4th AFL-CIO Convention, and he said the following. He said, "Powerful forces tell us to rely on the goodwill and the understanding of those who profit by exploiting us. They deplore our discontent. They resent our will to organize." And Dr. King knew all about discontent. He knew all about the will to organize. He was not a union member, but he was a courageous leader who knew how to break the silence, how to stand together, and how to win together. Brothers and sisters, he was as good a friend as any worker could ever have. And he walked down a line of National Guard bayonets with us. And he gave his life in Memphis at the I Am a Man strike. Now, I want you to think about that for a second. A strike to get dignity enough to be considered I am a man. Now think of the courage it took for those sanitation workers to stand up and join together in the Deep South, height of prejudice and segregation. They stood together. And he died with our brothers and sisters, those strong sanitation workers in the city of Memphis who suffered discontent and who stood up with the will to organize. And I ask you now, who will we stand with? Who will our generation of trade unionists stand with? Who shares our discontent? Who needs our will to organize? Well, we'll stand with anyone who needs us. Right now, there's a young African-American child about to commit a crime because they're hungry and they can't get a job and they don't know another way. Right now, there's an immigrant worker that's being denied wages and being discriminated against and threatened with deportation. Right now, there's a middle-aged man and woman that are receiving a layoff notice somewhere. their world shattered, their whole world shattered. We're going to stand with them because they need us to stand with them. And quite frankly, we need them to stand with us. Dr. King said it then, America needs it now, and I want to say it again, America needs it right now from each one of us. You see, what we're doing, everything that we're doing, everything from growing our political independence to the defense of Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, and food stamps, to our comprehensive immigration reform with a workable path to realistic citizenship, to our fight to end mass incarceration. All of it has one purpose. That's to build power for you and for me and for the 99%. And I want to leave you with just a few thoughts now. We're doing this because, as my friend Senator Elizabeth Warren so eloquently put it, the pundits and the big corporate lobbyists in Washington might be against us, but the American people are on our side. On every issue that we care about, our values are American values, and they are on our side. You see, we're working for Wall Street reform, and the far-right Republicans are fighting against it. And our political friends may sometimes be nowhere to be seen. But the American people are on our side. 80% of them agree with us. We're working to raise the minimum wage into a living wage. And big business is fighting us, but the American people are with us. 75% of them agree with us. We're working for investments in America's infrastructure, not millions, not billions, but trillions. And right-wing politicians in Washington are fighting us. But more than 70% of the American people are with us. We're working for education and health care and good jobs and safe jobs and an economy that works for the people who work. And Washington says it can't be done. But the American people are on our side. You see, brothers and sisters, we're going to get it done. We're going to start at the local level, and we'll build to the national level, and we'll keep building for global prosperity and fair trade and good jobs and justice and a sustainable economy here and abroad. We're going to turn America right side up. You hear me say it, you'll hear me say it again. We're going to get it done, and we will always, always keep reaching and keep fighting. That's the key. That's what we need to bring out the best in our country and in ourselves to build the future that we know that we can have and must have for each of us and for our kids and grandkids. And we will never, ever give up or back down, and together we will win for our families, for each other, for our future, for our country, standing together, working together, organizing together, voting together, winning together, today, tomorrow, next month, and next year. You see, it's our legacy. It's our time to create the traditions that they talk about in the years. It's our time to take America back for every last child and every last worker. And together, that's what we'll do. God bless you. Have a great convention.